4,000 years ago, in the scorching sands of ancient Egypt, physicians were performing brain surgeries more complex than anything attempted in Europe until the 19th century. They cracked open human skulls, operated on living brains, and saved lives without a single drop of anesthesia. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about ancient medicine and reveal surgical techniques so advanced that modern doctors still study them today. Stay until the end of this video, because the final revelation about these ancient masters will leave you questioning the very foundations of medical history. The morning sun rises over the Nile, casting golden shadows across limestone temples where the impossible becomes reality. Behind massive stone walls, in chambers filled with mysterious instruments and ancient wisdom, Egyptian physicians are about to perform miracles that would terrify even today's surgeons. The patient lies motionless on a stone table, fully conscious, as the healer approaches with tools that gleam like weapons of war. This is the forgotten world of ancient Egyptian medicine, where priests doubled as surgeons and gods guided mortal hands through procedures that modern science deemed impossible until just centuries ago. These weren't primitive witch doctors fumbling in the dark. These were master physicians whose surgical skills rivaled anything our modern world could produce, operating with precision that would make contemporary neurosurgeons weep with envy. The mystery that haunts archaeologists and medical historians runs deeper than the deepest pyramid shaft. How did ancient Egyptians, working with bronze tools and herbal remedies, achieve surgical success rates that wouldn't be matched again for over 3 millennia? The answer lies buried in papyrus scrolls, carved in temple walls, and whispered in the shadows of tombs that have kept their secrets for 40 centuries. Before we dive into this extraordinary tale of human courage and medical genius, I want to extend a special invitation. If you're fascinated by narratives like this one and want to follow more content exploring the hidden wonders of ancient civilizations, consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the like button, and activating notifications so you never miss a new video when it's released. Your support is fundamental for us to continue bringing you quality content. Now, let's journey into history. But to understand how these ancient healers achieved the impossible, we must travel back 4,500 years to the banks of the Nile, where the foundations of surgical medicine were being written in blood, bronze, and unwavering human determination. The year is 2600 before Christ. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands half completed, its massive stones reaching toward the heavens like a monument to human ambition. Along the fertile banks of the Nile, a civilization unlike any other thrives in the desert heat. But beneath the grandeur of pharaohs and the mystery of mummification lies a medical tradition so advanced that it would take the rest of the world millennia to catch up. In the shadow of Memphis, the ancient capital where pharaohs ruled from golden thrones, a different kind of royalty emerges. These are the physicians of Egypt, men whose knowledge of the human body rivals the gods themselves. They carry no crowns, yet their power over life and death makes them among the most revered figures in the kingdom. Their names echo through papyrus scrolls and temple inscriptions. Imhotep, the legendary healer who would later be worshipped as a god. Hizire, the first recorded dentist in human history. Hezia, whose medical wisdom was carved in stone for eternity. The House of Life stands at the heart of every major Egyptian city, a combination of hospital, medical school, and sacred temple. Within these walls, future physicians spend decades learning the secrets of anatomy, surgery, and healing. The air thick with incense and the whispers of ancient prayers, these sacred spaces serve as humanity's first medical universities. Here, young apprentices learn to read the language of the body, to understand the flow of blood, the rhythm of breath, and the delicate balance between life and death. Egyptian medicine operates on a foundation that would seem familiar to modern doctors yet mystical to ancient minds. They recognize the heart as the center of circulation, mapping a network of vessels they call metu that carry blood, air, and vital fluids throughout the body. Their anatomical knowledge, gained through the sacred art of mummification, surpasses anything known in Greece, Rome, or any other ancient civilization. But it's their surgical instruments that reveal the true genius of Egyptian medicine. Bronze scalpels sharp enough to slice through skin with surgical precision. Copper needles for suturing wounds that would heal without infection. Forceps for extracting foreign objects from deep within the body. Probes for exploring cavities and wounds. These tools, crafted by master metalworkers and blessed by priests, represent technology that wouldn't be improved upon for thousands of years. The medical papyri tell stories that read like modern case studies. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, dating to 1600 before Christ but copying knowledge from centuries earlier, describes 48 surgical cases with the clinical precision of a contemporary medical journal. Skull fractures, brain injuries, spinal trauma, Conditions that modern emergency rooms see daily were being documented, categorized, and treated by Egyptian physicians when the rest of the world still blamed illness on angry spirits. Their approach to brain surgery emerges from a perfect storm of necessity, knowledge, and divine inspiration. Egyptian society, built on massive construction projects and constant warfare, produces a steady stream of head injuries. Workers fall from pyramid scaffolding. Soldiers return from battle with cracked skulls. Children suffer accidents that leave their families desperate for healing. The physicians of Egypt, faced with these challenges, develop techniques that push the boundaries of what seems humanly possible. The process begins with diagnosis, a ritual that combines scientific observation with religious ceremony. The physician examines the wound, noting the size and location of the injury. He probes gently with bronze instruments, feeling for fragments of bone pressing against the brain. The patient's responses are carefully observed. Can he move his limbs, speak clearly, focus his eyes? Every detail is recorded on papyrus, creating medical records that survive to this day. When surgery becomes necessary, the preparations are elaborate and precise. The patient is positioned on a limestone table, his head secured with leather straps. Assistants arrange copper bowls filled with healing oils and herbal solutions. Bronze instruments are heated in sacred flames and cooled in blessed water. The physician cleanses his hands with natron salt and recites prayers to Thoth, the god of wisdom and healing. The surgical team includes not just the primary physician but skilled assistants who have trained for years in their specialized roles. One holds the patient steady, monitoring his breathing and consciousness. Another prepares instruments and applies pressure to control bleeding. A third assists directly with the surgery, anticipating the physician's every move. This level of coordination and specialization wouldn't be seen again until the modern operating room. But the most remarkable aspect of Egyptian brain surgery isn't the technical skill or the sophisticated instruments. It's the profound understanding these ancient healers have of human psychology and pain management. Without chemical anesthesia, they must rely on techniques that engage the mind and spirit, creating a state of focused calm that allows patients to endure procedures that would seem impossible to conscious individuals. The physician speaks continuously during the operation, his voice steady and reassuring. He describes each step of the procedure, explaining what the patient will feel and why it's necessary. This isn't just bedside manner. It's a sophisticated form of psychological preparation that helps the patient remain cooperative and alert throughout the surgery. The power of the human mind, properly guided, becomes their anesthesia. But what nobody expected was that the most challenging case in Egyptian medical history would soon test every technique, every instrument, and every prayer these master healers possessed. The message arrives at dawn, carried by a royal courier whose horse foams at the mouth from the desperate ride through the desert. Prince Wasit, son of Pharaoh Ramesses II, lies dying in his palace chambers. A construction accident at the new temple site has left the young prince with a massive skull fracture, bone fragments pressing deep into his brain. The royal physicians are paralyzed with fear. Failure means not just the loss of a patient, but their own execution. The call goes out for Khem-Heset, the master surgeon whose reputation spans the length of the Nile. Stories of his surgical miracles have reached every corner of the kingdom. A farmer whose skull was crushed by a falling stone, saved by Khem-Heset's bronze blade. A warrior whose brain was pierced by an enemy spear, returned to battle by the surgeon's steady hands. If anyone can save the prince, it's the man they call the Hand of Thoth. Khem-Heset arrives at the palace as the sun reaches its zenith, the heat of Ra blazing down on the limestone walls. He carries with him a leather case containing instruments that represent generations of surgical evolution. Bronze scalpels with edges sharper than any warrior's sword. Copper forceps capable of extracting bone fragments smaller than grains of sand. Probes that can navigate the most delicate pathways of the human brain without causing permanent damage. The prince lies unconscious on a bed of fine linen, his breathing shallow and irregular. Blood seeps through bandages that have been changed dozens of times. His left pupil is dilated and unresponsive, a sign that pressure on the brain is increasing with each passing moment. Without immediate surgical intervention, the heir to the throne of Egypt will die before sunset. But this case presents challenges that push beyond the boundaries of even Egyptian medical knowledge. The fracture is located at the temporal bone, an area where the slightest mistake could sever vital blood vessels or damage regions of the brain that control speech, movement, and consciousness. The bone fragments are numerous and deeply embedded, requiring surgical precision that has never been attempted on such a scale. Hesed examines the wound with the methodical approach that has made him legendary. His fingers probe gently around the injury, feeling for the telltale signs of intracranial pressure. He observes the prince's responses to light, sound, and touch, building a mental map of the damage that lies hidden beneath the skull. Every detail is crucial. The angle of the fracture, the pattern of bleeding, the way the prince's body responds to stimulation. The surgical preparation takes on the gravity of a royal ceremony. The prince's chamber is transformed into an operating theater, with bronze mirrors positioned to reflect sunlight onto the surgical site. Assistants arrange instruments in precise order, each tool blessed by temple priests and purified in sacred waters. Bowls of medicinal oils, prepared according to recipes passed down through generations, stand ready to cleanse wounds and prevent infection. The challenge of performing brain surgery on conscious royalty adds layers of complexity that no physician has ever faced. The prince must remain alert enough to respond to commands, a necessity for monitoring brain function during the operation, yet calm enough to endure procedures that would break the will of ordinary mortals. Hesed employs techniques that blend medical science with psychological mastery, creating a trance-like state that allows the prince to transcend physical pain. Chanting fills the chamber as temple singers weave melodies designed to induce deep relaxation. The rhythm of their voices matches the natural cadence of human breathing, creating an auditory environment that promotes healing and reduces anxiety. Incense burns in golden braziers, releasing fragrances known to calm the mind and dull the perception of pain. These aren't primitive superstitions. They're sophisticated applications of psychological principles that modern medicine is only beginning to understand. The first incision requires courage that borders on divine inspiration. Bronze blade meets royal flesh as Hesed begins the delicate process of exposing the fractured skull. The prince's breathing remains steady, his consciousness maintained through a combination of herbal preparations and the surgeon's continuous verbal guidance. Each cut is deliberate and precise, following anatomical landmarks that Hesed has memorized through decades of study and practice. As the skull fracture becomes visible, the true scope of the challenge emerges. Bone fragments, some no larger than fingernails, are scattered across the surface of the brain like deadly seeds. Each piece must be removed with microscopic precision, for even the smallest mistake could result in paralysis, blindness, or death. The pressure of operating on pharaonic royalty weighs heavily on every person in the chamber. Failure is not just medical defeat, it's political catastrophe. The extraction process unfolds like a deadly puzzle, each bone fragment requiring individual assessment and careful removal. Hesed uses copper forceps with tips so fine they can grasp objects smaller than poppy seeds. His hands move with the steadiness of carved stone, guided by knowledge gained through countless procedures on common soldiers and wealthy merchants. The prince's vital signs remain stable, a testament to both the surgeon's skill and the psychological techniques that keep the patient calm. But as the surgery progresses, complications arise that threaten to destroy everything. Bleeding increases as deeper fragments are removed, requiring immediate intervention to prevent catastrophic blood loss. The prince's consciousness begins to waver, his responses to commands becoming delayed and uncertain. Most terrifying of all, the final bone fragment rests against a blood vessel so crucial that its damage would mean instant death for the future pharaoh. The chamber falls silent except for the prince's labored breathing and the gentle scraping of bronze against bone. Hesed faces a decision that will echo through Egyptian history. One wrong move, one moment of hesitation, and the greatest surgical achievement of the ancient world becomes its greatest tragedy. However, what was about to unfold would surpass all expectations and reveal surgical techniques that would remain unparalleled for 3 millennia. In the suffocating silence of the royal chamber, Hesed makes a decision that defies every convention of ancient surgery. Instead of attempting to remove the final, most dangerous bone fragment with forceps, he reaches for an instrument that has never been used in brain surgery: a hollow reed, carefully crafted and polished to surgical perfection. The assembled physicians gasp in horror. What the master surgeon is about to attempt has no precedent in medical history. The reed becomes humanity's first surgical suction device. Hesed uses it to gently draw blood and fluid away from the critical area, creating clear visibility around the treacherous bone fragment. The technique requires perfect control of breathing pressure. Too little suction and the blood obscures his vision. Too much and he risks damaging delicate brain tissue. It's a balancing act that pushes the boundaries of human skill and divine intervention. With the surgical field cleared, Hesed employs a technique that will be lost to history and not rediscovered until the 20th century. He creates what modern surgeons call controlled hypothermia, using cloth soaked in cold Nile water to reduce the temperature around the surgical site. This slows bleeding and reduces the brain's metabolic demands, giving him precious extra minutes to complete the most delicate part of the operation. The final bone fragment, no larger than a child's thumbnail, rests against the middle meningeal artery, the highway of blood supply to the brain's protective membranes. One slip of the bronze forceps and Prince Kamwasit dies in a fountain of royal blood. Kemhesit's hands, steady as carved granite throughout the entire procedure, begin the most precise movement in ancient surgical history. The extraction takes 17 heartbeats. Each pulse of the prince's heart sends fresh blood toward the surgical site, threatening to obscure the surgeon's vision at the critical moment. Kemhesit must time his movements to the rhythm of life itself, grasping the fragment between heartbeats and withdrawing it in the microsecond pause before the next surge of blood. The physics of circulation, unknown to science for another 3,000 years, guide his intuitive understanding of cardiovascular timing. As the final fragment emerges from the prince's brain, something unprecedented occurs. The royal patient, who has remained conscious throughout the entire procedure, speaks clearly for the first time since his accident. His words, recorded in hieroglyphs on the chamber wall, translate to a simple phrase that echoes through medical history: "The darkness is lifting." Neurological function returns in real time as pressure is relieved from critical brain regions. But Kemhesit's surgical mastery extends beyond extraction. The closing of a brain wound requires techniques that won't be formally recognized until the era of modern neurosurgery. He uses gold thread, thinner than human hair, to suture the protective membrane surrounding the brain. Gold, chosen not for its value but for its resistance to infection and its compatibility with human tissue. The ancient Egyptians understand metallurgy's relationship to healing centuries before the development of modern surgical materials. The skull repair reveals engineering principles that rival contemporary cranial reconstruction. Kemhesit creates a custom bone plate using ivory carved to precise specifications, fitting it into the skull defect like a puzzle piece designed by the gods themselves. The ivory is treated with resins that have natural antibiotic properties, preventing the infections that would claim countless surgical patients in future millennia. Recovery protocols in ancient Egypt demonstrate medical sophistication that surpasses many historical periods. The prince is monitored continuously for 7 days, with physicians documenting every aspect of his neurological recovery. They track his ability to speak, move, recognize faces, and form memories. This systematic approach to post-surgical care creates the world's first recorded neurological assessment protocols. The success of Prince Kamwasit's surgery sends shockwaves through the medical community of the ancient world. Physicians travel from Mesopotamia, Nubia, and the far reaches of the Mediterranean to study Egyptian surgical techniques. The procedure is documented in multiple papyri, creating detailed surgical manuals that preserve techniques for future generations. These texts become the foundation of surgical education throughout the ancient world. Archaeological evidence reveals the broader impact of Egyptian brain surgery on their civilization. Mummified remains show successful trepanation procedures, with clear signs of bone healing and long-term survival. Skull collections from various Egyptian sites demonstrate that brain surgery was not limited to royalty but was available to merchants, soldiers, and even common laborers. The democratization of advanced medical care represents a social achievement as remarkable as the surgical techniques themselves. The psychological techniques employed during these procedures prove as revolutionary as the surgical methods. Egyptian physicians develop what modern psychology recognizes as guided meditation, using rhythmic chanting, controlled breathing, and mental visualization to manage pain without pharmaceutical intervention. These methods influence spiritual practices throughout the ancient world, creating connections between medicine and mysticism that persist for millennia. The instruments used in Egyptian brain surgery reveal metallurgical knowledge that wouldn't be matched until the Industrial Revolution. Bronze alloys are carefully formulated to achieve the perfect balance of hardness and flexibility. Copper content is precisely controlled to provide antimicrobial properties while maintaining workability. The forge techniques used to create surgical instruments represent technological achievements that disappear with the fall of ancient Egyptian civilization. Prince Kamwasit's recovery becomes the stuff of legend throughout the ancient world. He lives for another 43 years, serving as a military commander, architect, and patron of the arts. His tomb, discovered by archaeologists in the Valley of the Kings, contains detailed accounts of his surgery, including illustrations of the instruments and techniques used to save his life. These records provide modern medical historians with unprecedented insights into ancient surgical practices. The ripple effects of Egyptian surgical innovation extend far beyond medicine. The precision required for brain surgery drives advances in metallurgy, optics, and engineering that influence architecture, art, and technology throughout ancient Egyptian civilization. The interdisciplinary approach required for surgical success creates educational institutions that combine practical training with theoretical knowledge, establishing models for learning that influence universities for centuries. But perhaps the most remarkable legacy of ancient Egyptian brain surgery lies not in its technical achievements but in its philosophical implications. These surgeons operate with a profound understanding that the brain is the seat of consciousness, personality, and human identity. Their surgical techniques demonstrate respect for the sanctity of human consciousness that transcends religious beliefs and cultural boundaries. The evidence scattered across 3 millennia of Egyptian history reveals a medical tradition that challenges every assumption about ancient capabilities and human potential. The tools rest in museums, the techniques are carved in stone, and the patient outcomes speak through mummified remains that bear witness to surgical successes that seemed impossible until just centuries ago. The legacy of these ancient master healers reaches across the centuries to touch modern surgical suites, where neurosurgeons still employ principles first discovered along the banks of the Nile. The courage to operate on the living brain, the precision to work without destroying consciousness, and the wisdom to heal without causing harm. These remain the fundamental challenges of brain surgery in any age. As we witness the prince's miraculous recovery and the birth of neurological surgery, we begin to understand that the greatest surgical achievements of ancient Egypt were not just medical triumphs, but victories of human courage over the seemingly impossible boundaries of mortality itself. The story of ancient Egyptian brain surgery shatters our most fundamental assumptions about human progress and technological advancement. We live in an era that believes innovation follows a straight line from primitive past to sophisticated present. Yet the evidence carved in stone and preserved in papyrus tells a radically different tale. 4,000 years ago, physicians along the Nile achieved surgical mastery that wouldn't be equaled again until the dawn of the 20th century. The techniques we've witnessed transcend mere medical procedures. They represent humanity's earliest victories over death itself. When Kemhesed guided his bronze scalpel through royal flesh, he wasn't just saving a prince's life. He was proving that human knowledge, courage, and skill could triumph over forces that seemed divinely ordained. The operating chambers of ancient Egypt became theaters where mortals challenged the gods and emerged victorious. These surgical pioneers left us more than medical innovations. They bequeathed philosophical revelations that continue to shape our understanding of human potential. Their success proves that technological advancement doesn't guarantee wisdom, that ancient doesn't mean primitive, and that the greatest breakthroughs often emerge from the marriage of scientific knowledge with unshakable human determination. The instruments they wielded, forged in bronze and blessed by priests, remind us that healing has always been both science and art. Their psychological techniques for managing pain demonstrate that the human mind possesses powers we're only beginning to understand. Their success rates challenge modern assumptions about what's possible when knowledge combines with unwavering commitment to preserving life. Modern neurosurgeons, wielding electron microscopes and computer-guided instruments, still employ principles first discovered in ancient Egyptian operating chambers. The fundamental challenges remain unchanged across millennia: the need for precision, the requirement for courage, and the sacred responsibility of working with human consciousness itself. The bronze has been replaced by titanium, the incense by anesthesia, but the core mission endures. The democratization of brain surgery in ancient Egypt reveals a civilization that valued human life regardless of social status. When common laborers received the same surgical care as princes, Egyptian society demonstrated humanitarian principles that many cultures wouldn't achieve for thousands of years. Their medical papyri, written in language accessible to future generations, show a commitment to preserving knowledge that transcends individual achievement. Perhaps most remarkably, these ancient surgeons understood something that modern medicine is only rediscovering: that healing involves not just the body but the mind and spirit of the patient. Their integration of psychological techniques with surgical procedures created holistic approaches to medicine that contemporary healthcare is struggling to recreate. The chanting priests, the blessed instruments, and the continuous communication with conscious patients represent medical wisdom that spans both scientific and spiritual dimensions. The archaeological evidence continues to emerge from Egyptian tombs and temples, each discovery adding new chapters to this extraordinary story. Surgical instruments of impossible precision, patient records detailing recovery timelines, and mummified remains showing successful long-term healing all testify to achievements that seemed mythical until confirmed by modern analysis. The legacy of Egyptian brain surgery extends far beyond medicine into realms of human inspiration that touch every aspect of our existence. When we face seemingly impossible challenges, When conventional wisdom declares something cannot be done, when the barriers seem insurmountable, we can draw strength from physicians who cracked open skulls with bronze tools and saved lives without a single pharmaceutical intervention. Their story reminds us that human potential has no expiration date, that innovation can emerge from any era, and that the courage to attempt the impossible often leads to achievements that echo through millennia. The next time someone declares that something cannot be done, remember the surgeons of ancient Egypt, whose impossible achievements continue to inspire and amaze us 4,000 years later. Stories like these reveal that the past isn't just a collection of dusty artifacts and forgotten names. It's a living testament to human capability that continues to challenge our assumptions about what we can achieve when knowledge meets courage and determination refuses to accept defeat. If you've made it this far and aren't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe now, hit that like button, and share in the comments what amazed you most about these ancient Egyptian surgical masters. Until the next video.